The pharmacy smelled faintly of antiseptic and cinnamon gum, a strange mix that clung to the air like an old memory. Fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead, casting a harsh glare across the linoleum floor. And there, at the counter, stood a woman who looked as though the world had chewed her up and spit her back out, but whose eyes still burned with the stubborn fire of a mother's love. Her name was Claire. She was 32, a single mom, and the only parent to a 7-year-old girl named Lily. Life hadn't been kind to her. Her husband had walked out when Lily was barely a year old, unable to handle the responsibility. Since then, Claire had worked every job she could manage: a waitress, cashier, cleaner, babysitter, anything to keep the lights on and food on the table. But the real battle had begun when Lily was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune condition. The medicine she needed wasn't optional. It was the thin line between her playing outside with friends and ending up in the hospital. And like everything that truly mattered in this world, it came with a price tag so heavy it threatened to break them both. That evening, Claire clutched a crumpled envelope of bills and coins in her trembling hands as she approached the counter. Her heart was pounding so loudly she was sure the pharmacist could hear it. The pharmacist, a woman with tired eyes and a kind face, scanned the prescription. Her expression shifted almost immediately into that carefully rehearsed look of sympathy people wear when they're about to deliver bad news. "That'll be 486,079, she said softly. The number slammed into Claire like a punch. She knew it would be high. She had checked online, but hearing it aloud was different. It made it real. She opened the envelope and began laying out the money. $20 bills that had been folded and unfolded a dozen times. A handful of fives. Singles that looked as though they'd passed through every pocket in the city. And then finally coins. Quarters, dimes, even nickels. She lined them up on the counter, her fingers shaking. "Please," she whispered, her voice almost breaking. "This is all I have right now. Can I pay part today? Just enough to get us through the week. My daughter, she needs this medicine." The pharmacist's lips pressed into a thin line. "I'm sorry, ma'am. The system doesn't allow partial fills without payment in full. If I could, I would. I truly wish I could." Claire swallowed hard, blinking back tears. Around her, people in line shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away. Others sighed impatiently. One man glanced at his watch and muttered about being late. And then it happened. A shadow fell across the counter as someone stepped forward from behind her. A hand, strong, steady, and unmistakably confident, reached over her shoulder and placed a sleek gold card on the counter. "Charge it to me," a voice said. Claire froze. Slowly, she turned her head and looked up. Behind her stood a man in a tailored navy suit, the kind that looked like it cost more than her entire month's rent. His salt and pepper hair was neatly combed, his shoes gleamed like polished obsidian, and his eyes, sharp yet kind, met hers without a trace of hesitation. The pharmacist blinked. "Sir, this is nearly $500. "I know," the man said simply. "Run it." Claire's mouth went dry. No, please, you don't have to." He held up a hand, gentle but firm. "I know I don't have to. I want to." Her knees felt weak. This kind of thing didn't happen in real life. Strangers didn't swoop in and save you. Life wasn't a movie. And yet here he was, a man who looked like he belonged in a boardroom, stepping in to pay for her daughter's medicine without blinking. The pharmacist, after a moment's hesitation, swiped the card. The receipt printed. The bag of medicine was set on the counter. "Here you go," the pharmacist said softly, handing the bag to Claire. She clutched it to her chest, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. I don't even know what to say. Thank you doesn't feel like enough." The man smiled faintly. "Then don't say anything. Just take care of your little girl." Claire stared at him, trying to understand. Why? Why would you do this for me? You don't even know me." For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. A memory, perhaps. A shadow of something long buried. He cleared his throat. "Let's just say someone once did the same for me." And with that, he turned to leave. But Claire couldn't let him walk away. She hurried after him, medicine clutched tightly in her arms. "Wait. Please, at least tell me your name." He paused at the sliding doors, then glanced back at her. "Ethan." And then he was gone. That night, Claire sat by Lily's bedside, watching her little girl breathe easier after taking her medicine. She stroked Lily's hair, whispering prayers of gratitude for the stranger who had stepped in. But gratitude wasn't enough. She couldn't just let it end there. She needed to find him, to thank him properly, to understand why a man like him, a man who clearly lived in a world far removed from hers, had chosen to help her. And what she didn't know yet was that Ethan was no ordinary businessman. He was the CEO of one of the city's largest companies, a man whose decisions shifted markets and whose signature carried weight across continents. He had money, power, and influence, but he also had a secret that made him stop in that pharmacy line, a secret that connected him to Claire in ways neither of them could yet imagine. Claire thought the story ended with a gold card and a bag of medicine. But in reality, it was only the beginning of a chain of events that would change her life, her daughter's future, and even Ethan's own carefully guarded world. And as dawn broke the next morning, Claire made a vow she would find Ethan again, no matter what it took. Because deep down she knew this wasn't just a coincidence. This was fate. The next morning, Claire woke with a strange determination in her chest. For the first time in months, she felt like maybe, just maybe, the world hadn't turned entirely against her. She couldn't stop replaying the moment in the pharmacy, the gold card sliding across the counter, the calm authority in Ethan's voice, the way his eyes softened when he told her to take care of Lily. She had to find him again, not because she wanted more help. No, she had lived her life fiercely independent, even when it meant exhaustion and sacrifice. But gratitude burned in her like fire. She couldn't simply accept such kindness without giving something back, even if it was only a heartfelt thank you. The problem was, she didn't know anything about him except his first name. Still, there were clues. The suit, the polished shoes, the gold card, the way the pharmacist recognized the weight of his presence without him saying a word. Ethan wasn't just anybody, he was someone. Claire started asking around discreetly. She went back to the pharmacy a few days later, under the guise of picking up vitamins. The pharmacist hesitated when Claire asked if she knew more about him. "All I can tell you," the woman finally said, "is that you were lucky. I've seen him here once or twice before. Pays for people when they're struggling. Doesn't like attention. Do you know his last name?" Claire asked hopefully. The pharmacist lowered her voice. "Walker. Ethan Walker." The name hit Claire like a bell. She'd seen it before, though she couldn't place it. That evening, while Lily colored in her room, Claire opened her old laptop and searched. There it was, Ethan Walker, CEO of Walker Global, one of the largest technology companies in the country. Photos of him flooded the screen, shaking hands with politicians, speaking at conferences, posing on glossy magazine covers, always in suits, always with that same calm, unreadable expression. Her heart raced. She had been saved by a billionaire. The gap between their worlds suddenly felt immense. What could she possibly say to a man like that? What could she, a struggling single mom, ever give in return? But then she remembered the look in his eyes that night in the pharmacy. It hadn't been pity. It had been recognition, almost as though he knew what it felt like to stand where she had stood, and that gave her courage. The next week, Claire did something that terrified her. She walked into the downtown headquarters of Walker Global. The lobby was like something out of a movie. Gleaming marble floors, a chandelier that looked like falling stars, and a receptionist who wore a headset and a perfectly polite smile. "Can I help you?" the receptionist asked. Claire swallowed. I need to speak with Mr. Ethan Walker." The receptionist blinked, then gave a small laugh. "I'm afraid Mr. Walker doesn't take unscheduled meetings." I just need 5 minutes," Claire pleaded. "He helped me at the pharmacy last week. Please, I just need to thank him." Something in her voice must have carried weight, because the receptionist's expression softened. She picked up the phone, murmured into it, and then looked back at Claire. "Wait here." Claire's knees shook as she sat in one of the leather chairs. What was she doing here? This was insane. What if he didn't remember her? What if he was annoyed? But before she could spiral further, the receptionist gestured. "Mr. Walker will see you now." His office was vast, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. Behind a sleek oak desk sat Ethan, the same suit-clad figure, though now without the anonymity of a crowded pharmacy. When he looked up and saw her, his eyes widened just slightly. Then he smiled. "Claire, isn't it?" She froze. "You'll remember my name." "I asked the pharmacist after you left," he said simply. "I wanted to make sure your daughter got what she needed." Her throat tightened. "She did. She's doing so much better. And that's because of you. I couldn't let it go. I had to come and thank you properly." He leaned back in his chair, studying her. "Most people would have just moved on." "I'm not most people," she said quietly. Something flickered in his expression again. Respect, maybe even admiration. For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Claire gathered her courage. "Why did you help me? Really?" He exhaled slowly, his gaze drifting toward the window. "Because once, a long time ago, I stood where you stood. My mother was a single parent, worked 2 jobs, struggled to pay for the medicine I needed when I got sick as a kid. One night, a stranger stepped in and paid for it. I never forgot. I promised myself that if I ever had the means, I'd do the same for others." Claire's chest ached. The story mirrored her own life so closely it felt almost unreal. She whispered, "So this is your way of repaying that stranger?" He nodded. "And honoring my mother. She fought harder than anyone I've ever met. People like you mothers who refuse to give up. You deserve more than the world gives you." Her tears filled her eyes again, but this time she didn't hide them. "You have no idea what that means to me." Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe I do." Over the next few weeks, something unexpected began to grow between them. It started small, Ethan checking in with her by phone to ask about Lily. Then he sent books Lily might enjoy, puzzles to keep her mind sharp during recovery days. He never flaunted his wealth, never made Claire feel small. Instead, he listened. He asked about her struggles, her jobs, her dreams. And slowly Claire began to see past the billionaire exterior to the man beneath. The son who had once been sick, the boy raised by a mother who fought tooth and nail, the man who carried that legacy into his empire. One Saturday afternoon, Ethan visited their modest apartment. He sat on the worn couch, a giant in a humble space, and played board games with Lily until she was giggling uncontrollably. Claire watched from the doorway, her heart swelling. This man who could have been anywhere in the world, dining in Paris, meeting leaders, signing million-dollar deals, was here making her daughter laugh. And she realized something dangerous, something she hadn't felt in years. She was beginning to care about him. But not everyone was happy about it. Rumors began to swirl. Ethan Walker, the elusive CEO known for avoiding gossip columns, was suddenly being spotted with a single mom from the wrong side of town. Paparazzi photos leaked. Articles speculated. Investors whispered about distraction. And then one evening, Claire's phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. "Stay away from him," a cold voice warned. "You don't belong in his world. If you care about your daughter, you'll disappear before you ruin him." Claire's blood ran cold. She didn't know who it was. A rival, a board member, maybe even someone in Ethan's circle. But the threat was clear. She looked over at Lily, coloring on the floor, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing. For the first time, Claire wondered if her presence in Ethan's life would cost her everything she was fighting so hard to protect. And so, standing in the quiet of her small kitchen that night, Claire faced the hardest question of her life. Did she walk away, protecting Lily and sparing Ethan from scandal? Or did she stay, risking everything for the man who had stepped in when she needed him most? The man who might just be her chance at not only survival, but something she never thought she'd find again, love. The choice would change all of their lives forever.